Welcome back to the Plunder Den. In this week's episode, we're going to build a longhouse. So in the last episode, we built that wigwam, and I really kind of wanted to do a series of videos exploring and building native structures, mainly for Fire on the Frontier, the Blood and Plunder expansion. But it could be used for all sorts of different games. It could be used as a witch's hut. It could be used as something in fantasy games, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be a historical game. So this is kind of, again, another universal piece of terrain that I can use for all sorts of different games. So let's take a look at the finished product here. So this is what it looks like, all done here. And I got kind of challenged by the community there to have a structure where the roof is detachable so that you can play inside the structure itself. And you know me, I like to play through the terrain, right? So this is something that I wanted to do in the wigwam, but I found it really challenging in a smaller structure like that. So I just made it so the whole structure came up, and you can still play inside of it, but the roof didn't detach. So I really wanted to do that on this larger structure. So that was more of a proof of concept, really. And this is kind of the next step from that. So let's take a part here and show you. So this front piece comes off. It's just kind of like a cover for the doorway here. And then the roof comes off. So I got it up pretty good here. And I'm just going to show you. I made you know me, I like track systems. So we got a track system here I built. And then on the bottom here, we got little like matchsticks on here. And that really is what helps it sit in here. And it snaps in pretty good, actually. I made it really pretty tight, so this doesn't come off real easy. But you can play right through this. Easy to take the top off and move your miniatures through it, which is the idea behind this whole structure. All right, so if you guys like what we're doing here in the Plunder Den, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den and get first-hand information when I build these kind of projects. All right, everyone, let's get down to the table and let's start crafting and let's start painting. Okay, started with some dollar store foam board and some matchsticks and some of that crafting wire that I got from the dollar store. Same stuff I used for that wigwam in the previous episode. But I came to the conclusion that the long house is going to have to be a little bit straighter, and it's going to be a little harder doing long chunks of string. So I figured I could use some matchsticks to frame it out. And then tie some of those wires in there. Now, I could have just gone with just matchsticks, but I think the look that the wire gives, it's more like a twig or a branch opposed to just the straight sticks here. But I definitely wanted something to tie it with. So I just used some white PVA glue, and I just put it on there. So as you can see, I've already started to do a track system. I plan on making the roof detachable. And I also laid some insulation foam bricks there for some fire pits that are going to be on the interior. So I'm just showing you using that tacky glue to glue everything together. So I've glued everything down. I've glued all those stones down, and now I'm going to move to some drywall compound. So it's the same stuff that DAP dry decks that I always use. It comes in pink and then dries white, so you know when it's completed. And we're just going to cover that base. So I kind of did it a little bit earlier this time. I do that near the end, but once I put those walls in, it'll be really hard to put that drywall compound in. So I decided to do it early. And now to counteract the warping of it, I'm going to put that black craft paint on the bottom. Now, of course, you could use an MDF board and skip this step and not have any warping, but I just use a dollar store foam board, as you know. And I take this extra step here, mainly because it's just easier to do it, and then cutting some wood. And then I'm just going to do the top. So it's actually warped a little bit the other way. Once you put the top layer on, it's perfectly fine. So now it's nice and flat, and now I'm moving on to adding the craft wire string and kind of putting some sticks. Right now it looks like bob wire, to be honest. Looks like something more of from a prison, but we're just building the outer wall here. And eventually we're going to put some insulation foam in there to build up the walls. So I'm just showing you that I plan on finishing it, and then I also want to build kind of a cover for the door. It's kind of like an overhang for the door. So this is after I've already kind of planned out and put out the doorway entranceway. I've completed the track system on the two ends now, and pretty well have done most of the wire on all the sides, and just starting to work more on the overhang. So I do want that piece to be loose. Again, I don't want to glue that on there because I can't paint in there and move minis through there. I wanted that to be loose. So now I started working on the roof. So this is the opposite to the track system. I'm using some matchsticks, and they're the same width. I think in the future, though, I might have made them a little bit wider on the base, but they're really, really snug, which I really like. It locks into place really well, but it might be just a tad tight. So I think in the future or a future build, I'd make them a little bit wider. So now I'm working on the roof. So these are just that crafting wire. I have them in even cuts here. I'm using my table mat here to measure it all out. And that's just a barbecue skewer. And I'm just kind of doing a center. And then I'm going to do 2 on each side. And that's going to give some stability to that wire on the roof. So when I bend it over on the top, it'll hold its shape. So I'm just using that white tacky glue and just showing you. And then I'm planning on gluing it to that little framework that we did already there. So this is after I put the glue on. Now when you put it on the mat like this, obviously I've got big blobs of glue there, you can see. But just let it dry for a few moments and then just keep moving that around on your mat there. And then the glue will be dry enough that it's not sticking to the mat anymore. Or just make smaller blobs. But I like to put lots on there to make sure it's adhered really well. So now I'm just doing the shingles for the side walls. And this is just insulation foam and using that little cleaning tool that I used before, a little wire brush to make that wood texture. So now I'm showing you how I make the rounded ends on the roof. I really, now that I've bent that roof part on top, I glued it to the frame, and now I use it to tie myself several loops to make that rounded shape, and kind of tied it to the bottom there. Well, it's not really tied, actually. It's just kind of loose there, but that's the great thing about that wire. It kind of, you can bend it into shape. And then, of course, you put glue on there, and it'll dry like that. So this is, I'm putting the first of the shingles kind of into the wall. I call them shingles, but they're not really. They're just like slots for the wall. And it's just, on a building like this, it would be just big chunks of bark that they used. And I'm just showing you that I'm planning on going all the way around the base of it. So I'm just kind of speeding through here, just showing you exactly how I kind of put it in. So this is kind of midway point. Just kind of, I'm not overly careful. I kind of like overlapping the top level from the bottom level. It has a nice effect on the outside. But be careful to make sure that your shingles are thin enough so you can do this. Otherwise, it's too difficult. So this is the overhang. This is way in advance here. You can see I've used popsicle sticks for a little roof. I put these dowels and they represent logs on the sides. And there's some insulation foam shingles as well in there in the framing. And I wasn't exactly sure why they put logs on the one side. Historical pictures have a lot of those. I'm assuming it's to protect you from the elements and maybe it's spare parts to repair the building. I'm not exactly sure, but I wanted to capture that anyways. So this is after I've completed everything, and now I'm adding matchsticks to the inside. So now I'm working on the interior of the Longhouse. Definitely wanted this to be playable all the way through. So now I'm going to start addressing the roof. So you can see I got all the framing worked. It's all been dried. I kind of just went switch back and forth between the roof and the base while the glue was drying to do a continuous build here. And then I moved on to putting shingles on the roof. Now, when I cut them, these are probably my thinnest pieces, mainly because they bend easier on the roof pieces. And I left those two openings. They would be above where the fire pits are, and they're kind of their version of a chimney, really. It lets all the smoke evacuate out of those compartments. All right, so now we're moving on to the paint. So same as usual, go to the multi-surface black craft paint by Folk Art, and we're going to cover this entire piece, as well as the roof. Now, I do want to briefly stop here for a second in the video here, and I'm going to show you painting some of that fabric on. I've done that before in the previous video, and I really kind of want to add that on the interior. They used to have blankets or sheets or even animal skins on the inside of the... It kind of blocks the wind from getting through the slots, and they also had, as a decorative piece, and definitely they had some animal skins on the roof. So I kind of wanted to add all those things, those elements, and I just use that material that I get from Walmart, that Fabric Creations. So this is just a short little demonstration. I'm actually holding the camera. Probably should have just put it on the little stand and filmed this properly, but anyways, you get the picture. I just wanted you to show you that you paint the bottom first, and then you put the material on, and then you paint over top. And put a generous amount of paint on there, and it'll stick to it. You don't need a PVA glue. You don't need anything else. It'll harden and right where you put it, between the two layers of craft paint. This is similar to the techniques I use for making flags and sails for my ships. All right, so this is after I've completed all the black coats. I kind of left this for 24 hours. I got up early in the morning and kind of did one more look over and make sure I got all the nooks and crannies, because this is actually quite a difficult piece to paint because there's lots of little spots where you need to get the paint into. So now I'm moving into my undertones, the real brown, bark brown, Pueblo, and the camel. But I'm using those three colors first, and then the camel I'm going to add to some strategic areas afterwards, which I'm going to show you here in a minute. So, of course, we are going to fast forward through this. We're not going to watch me dry brush or apply all this paint to the piece here. We're just going to go past that part. But I just really wanted to show you what I was planning on doing. Now, on those timbers, I plan on making some birch wood in there too. And so definitely going to add some different colors in there to add the birch wood look to it. All right, so this is after I've added those three colors, and pretty well everywhere. As you can see, I got the two browns and the orange. So now I'm moving into the camel. Now the camel, I want to hit the stones on the inside, but I definitely want to do this lattice work or the framing on the outside and the inside of the building. Because at the end of the day, I want them to be a little bit lighter than the walls. The walls are going to be more grayish because they're going to be aged wood. But it really defines it even more. And it makes it look like it's twigs or branches that they would have used this to build this with. So just kind of showing you the different areas I hit. I hit the tips of those logs there that look like it's been cut. Kind of the framework on the top. You can see those bricks inside. And I kind of made a few of the material pieces that I added on the inside. Made a few of them lighter. I plan on adding different colors to them afterwards. And I hit some on the top there as well. So kind of just put very little bit of paint on my brush and just kind of smeared it on, dry brushed it on there. Okay, now we're moving to the Necromancer Cloak, dark stone, the ash gray. We got matte white. Yeah, I'm going too fast. I'm going to catch up here. And then the matte black, and then this Morfang brown. those are pretty well the standard colors I use for aged wood or weathered wood. And I'm going to briefly demonstrate that, but I'm going to do it in fast forward this time. So we don't spend too much time on it. I'm trying to reduce the length of the video. So we're going to watch this in fast forward. But I start with the Necromancer cloak, and it's just kind of putting undertones of gray in there. Then I move to that dark stone. It's got kind of more of a reddy gray, brownish color. Really great colors. And then the ash gray. This is going to start highlighting things. Just getting it on there. It gives that real aged wood look. Aged wood starts to look gray over time. And then we use that matte white in there. And I usually just use that Morfang brown just to highlight a few areas to make it look like it's still a little bit darker in a few areas. All right, well, hopefully that was helpful. I just wanted to do it in fast forward. And that was only just a piece. I did all the wood in the entire structure that way. So now we're going to the desert yellow, skeleton bone, necrotic flesh, and the mummy robe. Those are my standard stone colors. But I plan on doing them for a little different thing. So yes, there's a little bit of stone on the inside, very little, just around where those fire pits are. But we're definitely going to add those onto the birch wood. Now, what I didn't show you in that painting portion of it is the birch wood that I painted. I just used those whites, grays, and blacks to make the birch wood. And if you watch those fortification videos, I have done that demonstrations of that in other videos. So then I went to the desert yellow and the skeleton bone, and I kind of went and touched some of these frameworks and some of the like material or the animal skins on the top here, just kind of highlighting the ruffles and stuff in there and lightening them different colors, because I want to have these all like they're kind of patchy work, like it's almost like a quilt really. Different colored materials or animal skins that are sitting on top of the structure. So you see, I even got one that's Morfang brown. I got yellow. I'm adding greens. Just all sorts of different things in there. Just adds a lot of character to it. And I did the same thing on the interior for the blankets or cloths and stuff that are sitting on the walls inside the structure. And you can see the birchwood's all done there. And I've completed that as well. So I just added a few highlights throughout everywhere using those same colors. I even went all the way down to the mummy robe. So now I'm going to move to some plant life. So commando green, army green. I'm going to add some more of that sterling mud and the matte black. I think I got matte black in almost every phase here. All right, so we're going to fast forward this as well. I'm just showing you I'm adding that commando green. I added the army green first in a few areas, and then I just add this commando green in there. Really just adds a little bit of like there's plant life in there, more organic feel to things. To kind of just put it like all over the place, really, to be honest. More around the base, but a little bit on the top, that it's grown up, and definitely on the top of the roof. So now I'm just moving into the finer details using the contrast paint skeleton horde, Memphis tin red, basilisk brown, and some matte black again. And then assorted tufts and flocking from Arby Painter, and of course my battlefield, it's a stone work on there. Actually, I think I got the lids mixed up. It's got the stepgrass lid on there. But anyways, it's the battlefield stones, and I'm going to add that to the interior. So kind of where the edges are, I'm going to add a little bit of the grass first, and then move to the stones. All right, so we're all done with this project. Let's take one look over here. Looks like we got some English militia, some raiders here coming into this native town. Looks like this native town has support of some French Canadian militia here as well, help defending this little town here, a village. So let's just take a look at that longhouse, all completed. You can see I've added all that flocking to the outside, and we're going to open up this lid here in a minute. You can see I added that matte black to the top. That's kind of, like it's fire burnt or from all the smoke that would have come out of those. It's kind of like a chimney, really. And there's some of the finer details that I added with that red and yellow on the cloths that are on the wall. And you can see the grass and the stone that I put on the inside. Alright, if you guys like what we're doing here in the Plunder Den, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den and get first-hand information on when I start these kind of projects. Alright everyone, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.